Hello. This is a quick overview of the Gunman spine rig and how to begin working with it and make it not look stupid inside of spine like this, because this is just a run animation. It doesn't know what gun it's supposed to be holding. So to get started, I'm just going to run through some of the animations here. This obviously, run, uh, but his hands are pinned in place and nothing's really going on there. If we take a look at the, let's say, fire shotgun. Same idea, it kind of looks like it's not set up correctly. When you're talking about mixing animations additively, in this case, because we're switching between a whole bunch of different configurations, like a single-handed weapon as a pistol, a two-handed as a shotgun, a sniper, an over-the-shoulder weapon like a launcher, there's actually a lot of changes that have to happen to the inverse kinematics, the attachments, the overlays, which hand pose is being used, so on. So to store all that information, I've included kind of like the initial key pose for all of these inside of these setup poses. So setup shotgun should typically look like a static pose of the character, be only 1 frame long. And this animation in Game Engine is typically not played as if it were an animation. It is just applied. So you would simply grab all the keys and apply it to your character, and that would set up all the attachments to be what you want and get all the offsets for the various IK joints posed so that it looks good in the character. And ultimately, the way this rig is set up is the aim pivot controls the majority of this stuff. So if you move the aim pivot around this way, it gives you a fair amount of dynamicness in here. So you can change like whether it's a shoulder filed rifle or a hip fired shotgun. And then similarly, the aim is generally controlled by that as well. Okay, so inside of Spine, there is a preview window that you can take a quick look at to tell whether or not everything is working the way you want to in here, instead of copying keys back and forth or exporting and looking at it in window again. So if we go to the first track and say setup shotgun, we can see our character is now holding a shotgun. And if we go to our first track, we can pick pretty much any of them, like the run we showed initially. You can now see has the setup keys applied. This doesn't mean that in Engine you would have to constantly keep these setup keys in track 0. You just have to apply them first and make sure you don't overwrite them inside your animation, or do. It depends on your character. But you can lay another one on top of this as well. So here's track 3, for example. We would want the fire shotgun track to do its thing. Oops, I had its alpha turned down. There we go. So now we have a technically 3-layer, the setup pose, the run animation, and the fire animation all playing directly on top of each other. So this is similar to how you would set up an engine. And now the next thing I'm going to cover is how the heck do you animate that inside of Spine while keeping the setup poses somewhat sane. So I'm going to go back to, actually we're already on the setup shotgun, for example. And I'm going to select every key in here, so every last key. And this is how I did this when I set this up. There are a couple better tools available. I'm probably going to make another video after this, and possibly revise this rig a little bit, bring it a little towards the future. But this was my best practices workflow at the time. So I'm going to copy all of the keys from here, and let's see. Let's go over to, let's say fire shotgun. Why not? And it's really important that you keep track of which keys are used in your animation. So in this case, the shotgun pump, back arm IK, recoil. Okay, that's pretty straightforward. Because these I typically don't animate inside the setup pose. I don't think. Actually, you know what? Back arm IK, I think I did in this one. So I'm going to take all of these guys and I'm going to move them a few frames into the future and then paste my setup pose all the way at the beginning. So do that again so you can see it looks broken and horrible here. And when I paste my setup pose at the beginning, we now have all those keys applied. 5 and 30, for example. And now we have a good loop here that already has the history of having the setup keys applied over here. So we can now see our fire animation in effect there. So you would typically go in, tweak all your animations here, make all your changes, get it looking decent. And then when you're done, you would go back and delete all the setup keys and return all of your original keys back to the beginning. Save and repeat. And it'll go back to looking stupid and spine, but if you open the preview window or export, it'll continue to look like what it was supposed to look like. I know it's a little roundabout. That's how I went about doing it, and I hope that helps you get started with the Gunman asset pack.